me start with my own presentation. So I don't want to touch upon any of the delivery stuff because the teams will present it here. But mine is very, very special about like what we are going to do from 2023 onwards. So they're all about DISYS India. So we'll have only one slide. I'll cover as much as I could in this slide. So first and foremost thing, for any person who is working, there are three things which are there in his life. So there is always a conflict. One is about the profession, what he is doing, and the requirement from the company that like what he needs to get to perform his profession. The second is, of course, his own passion, what he wanted to do. There is a limitation as to the time, there is always a limitation as to the ability to kind of contribute to the society or his own personal ambitions. And the third, of course, there is a professional requirement from him to upgrade himself, but all said and done, there is a limitation. But that's good for the organization, but at the same time, that's not required by the organization immediately, maybe in the future. So with that, like we wanted to run a DISYS program from January onwards. So the DISYS program will collect all information about you. If you have any passion which you wanted to pursue or any CSR activity which you wanted to pursue, or even if it is something which you wanted to do a 10K run, you wanted to create a blood group or blood donation camps, anything which you do, you first say to us that like you wanted to do this one, and we will ensure that like you are given a proper kit to go and do that one. So for us, it would become a much better society to build, not just DISYS here. We all build as a community beyond DISYS and what DISYS contributes to that one. So with that, the DISYS program, we will collect all information into Zoho has a point system. Every quarter you can monetize the point system, which you will be, HR will give you the information about it. And if you wanted to carry on further, after 1 year, every year it expires. After 1 year, if you wanted to, all the points which you collected, you wanted to kind of take the money out of that one. If you are the superstar, all the points which everybody collects, and you suppose if you are 100,000 points and you are the superstar, you get the bonanza out of it. The bonus is much higher than what you have. But the thing is, if you monetize every quarter, you are not going to get that bonanza. The last thing is, every activity inside the company, be it timesheet entry, be it your skill metrics, be it your putting the certifications which is requested by your manager, all these things, if you are doing it, put it as an activity, everything counts for a point. So your professional work counts for a point, your customer appreciations or anything which you go beyond, above and beyond carries a point. You have any social work which carries a point. Every point is added together, builds the DISYS, builds the community around DISYS, and builds your own personality development around that area. There are other significant objectives which we wanted to do in 2023 and above. So one such thing is, we wanted to kind of, from this current state, we need to uplift our stuff to a futuristic state, and also make sure that the capability is building beyond the current level. So I approached Maruf and Mahfouz and requested them if I can hire from premium institutions, which is IITs and IIMs and IFMR and things like that. And I got the approval to go ahead and fill in all the departments, these IITs and IIMs. So that way builds the greatest process improvements for all of us. That's the second initiative which we want to take it. The third one is the intern and mentorship. This is true across DISYS, both centralized recruiting team and the other teams, non-centralized recruiting teams. Both are practicing their own intern and mentorship programs, which we build college intern program, bring them to DISYS, 2 or 3 months, they get trained. Over and above what we train in their typical skill level, we also wanted to put the values as part of the overall training curriculum. So that's been tested in the non-centralized recruiting side right now, but like we will keep adding those values, typically a month value into that one, and make them kind of understand where DISYS stands for in terms of the overall values going forward. So in a nutshell, a mentor is basically to ensure that all these people, those who are hired through college intern program, follow the values which we kind of put in there, and they carry on forever. And thanks all the leadership team, Sumit, Abhijit, Param, Nirmal, TG, and Venkat, Sampath, everybody put together a lot more comprehensive plan in terms of the training. And almost this particular segment is very successful for the past 1 year. And we found out new ways of recruiting people that way. Next is the upskilling. So we signed up very different programs, very many programs. For example, NASCOM Future Skills Prime program. We did the Vadvani Foundation's soft skills programs on the campus or the premises training programs with the training partners. We did soft skills. In fact, thanks to Vivian Sharma for taking me through the trainings which have been imparted on them, and one of the reasons why she was brought in, if she was an external trainer, she was brought in. So these training programs are required for upskilling the individuals. And what I could see from here, this conclave, most of them are trained, and in fact, I got the best appreciation from all of you guys, thanks to the excellent training programs put in by these trainers, day in and night, day out, and they, in fact, a big shout for them for taking the efforts. Thank you everybody, all the trainers here. So moving on from the training, which is because that builds the skill for us, but that builds the skill internally for us to kind of execute what we wanted to do, our work. But beyond that, like we just wanted to move forward with that one, there are very different objectives which we wanted to achieve. One is towards the environment. So TG and I, we were talking about it, like what we needed to do. From the very first time, we have been, in fact, many others were scrambling to get the place, but we said we will go only with a grade A building. The grade A building comes with certain certifications, and we also, during the ISO and CMA audits, we continuously follow up with the vendors to get those certificates. One is the green certifications, which provides the energy conservations, water conservations, all those things. If any of the building providers are not providing that certification, we follow up rigorously. So this is a start for us. So it is a 4-year journey. So we earmarked, I sent an email about in the March time frame to the leadership team what we signed up for the ESG. So far we have accumulated what we need to do. We are also getting into a toolkit from an expert to advise us to kind of add the KPIs around that one. So at this point of time, we have enabled so many of data collections, including any vendor which we wanted to onboard from here on. We also advise them how they get into the environmental safety precautions. So that way, it becomes easier for us to be part of the society and also showcase in most of our RFI and RFPs what we are trying to do on the environmental side. Next is the social side of it. Of course, there are two major elements which are important. One is diversity and inclusions. By now, I think, Lydia, thank you for your comment. The female-male ratio here is like you would have seen. Thanks to all the recruiters putting together, and we have almost like 35% of our workforce is female population. We also have other programs which the special people with special abilities also participate in that one. We train them and put them into the organizations. But beyond that one, what is important is taking somebody into the organization is much easier, but providing them a very safe workplace, including the very involved post trainings, prevention of sexual harassment, take every female employee back to their house safely, because during the night shift they need to be engaged. Take them back to the work to their home and bring them back to the office, and also providing a safe environment, a good working environment where they nobody is discriminated, and also they feel safe inside the office where they are working. So towards that one, the building has to have 4 layers of security, 3 to 4 layers of security. Within the building, there should be cameras, which is basically to provide them the CCTV footages for continuous monitoring. All those are their part of DISYS. These are investments, but again, These are good investments to make. We made it into, from ever since 2012 we started, but we'll continue to increase these things because these are very important to bring the diversity and inclusion in workplace. We have been including all these things in our RFP and RFI, but we'll have much more going forward in that one. The last is the governance. So, of course, like all these things are in theory good, but if the governance is not there, it's going to be a major problem for all of us. So, we can claim every year, but this is what Mahfouz told me is like kind of you can claim, but the thing is, the reality has to be there, what we claim. So, the governance has to be absolutely perfect in terms of collecting the data and reading the data and distributing the data in such a way that like everybody understands. So what we have done is a few layers of governance which have been included. One is of course the internal controls and the audits. We have started this and we are working with Lane. The second is the quality audits, ISO, CMI, all those standard audits which are part of it. Every locations, including the international locations, will be part of the quality audits and certifications. That way, we will have one DISYS policy process everywhere and it is monitored continuously. And the last but not the least, in any coding environment, we need to have, all these are physical security in nature, but there is always a cyber security and there is always a digital security problem which happens. The code review program is what we started in 2012, ran 2022, ran very successfully. Every part of our projects in India, from India, we have the code review programs which has enabled us to kind of go through, sweep through every code and see if that particular code has any vulnerability in terms of exposing to any of our APIs or anything to the public outside. So that way any information leakage can be stopped if the code review program is put in place in all the projects. This is there in India at this point of time, but once the effectiveness of this is there, we will probably expand it beyond that. Just to kind of give one quick information on this one, introduced by, he came down a couple of days back. Of all the things which he saw, the moment he saw the code review program and the metrics around that one and the benchmarking around that one, he was pretty happy. He said like, can you productize it and give it to me? I wanted to use it. But I told him, we are not productizing this one. We are probably productize the services. We will still service you if you are interested, because productizing has other problems which are involved in it. But the thing is, he's pretty much happy with the work which we are doing. So the main objective here is, it's not that like we are going to go and tell the client that like you are super risk. We are going to tell them that like if your code has certain standards, we'll ensure that like if it can be standardized and it can be taken forward for next 10 years without any issue. The last is the stakeholders experience. Of course, there are employee experiences there and customer experience. First, I want to share the customer experience. Maruf has been talking about it some time back. Our mantra for 2023 and above is going to be the experience, both employees as well as the customer. If that's the case, first I wanted to share the customer experience as a video. I got it from Government of Bihar. So the journey here is from a digital, we started as a digital transformation. Actually, it's not a digital transformation, it's a human transformation. Somebody does not even know how to hold a mobile phone. We have trained them, 17,000 people on the field, does not even know digital literacy. Literally like kind of on the ground, taking informations with a pen and paper. But now they are all trained, 17,000 people are trained. But I can tell you one thing which we did, the customer experience is the major thing. So going above and beyond is, I would say, we were not paid for training all those people, but we took it as an initiative because unless they are trained, the data quality is going to be bad. The next is, of course, the employee experience of it. The stakeholders and employee. First is, of course, the India website, which I wanted to kind of, talking to Kip, we would be launching soon. There are some elements which are out there missing. We are trying to plug in that one. India website is very important for two reasons. One, who in India is like kind of, it's very difficult to recruit if they are just looking at it as a staffing company. We need different layers of it, which includes the D2M as well as the shared services. The permanency of employment beyond the staffing, which is important. We have the recruiting layer, we have the shared services layer, we have the D2M layer. So here the employment is permanent is kind of a message which we need to pass on. So the website is created, all the centralized recruiting team's effort in terms of recruiting will be redirected to the US website, whereas the D2M shared services, which are very specific to India, will have an India microsite which will be running, and all the leadership team will be present there so that anybody who's logging in from India can see that one. That would give the experience of a person joining the DISYS much before they accept the offer. The second is, of course, the employee experience. The last point which I want to touch, spoke about the DRISE. I'll give you one simple thing, where the DRISE started and also where the employee experience comes there. In fact, one of the employees openly said, DISYS is a place to work for because it provides that experience. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.